The United States and Mexico agreeing to overhaul NAFTA yesterday, calling the new deal the U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. The question now is, will it get approved? Joining us in a First on CNBC interview, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana. Very good afternoon to you, Senator. Thanks for joining us. I guess the reaction to this has been somewhat split on Capitol Hill on a number of issues. Firstly, as to whether it can be approved as things stand, whether Canada join or not, and whether this is a successful deal. What's your take? We haven't seen the bill yet, so when we see the bill, we'll know. I personally think trade is better. Louisiana has a positive balance of trade with Mexico, and because the United States and Mexico cooperate on trade, we also have more cooperation on issues such as immigration and illegal drugs. So we'll see, and whether it passes, there's some question as to whether or not a bilateral deal would be different than a trilateral deal. Would it be a 50 or 60 vote threshold? I think those are some of the issues to work out if it turns out to be only U.S.-Mexico. Well, more broadly, though, Senator, do you see this as a sign that the president's tactics on trade are working, and do you congratulate him? Well, I do. Well, we have to see the final numbers. But as I see the broad outlines of the plan, I think it's good. And both the increase in the content has to come from North America as one example. The preservation of markets for agricultural goods is another example, important to my state. So I think there's things that are good, but would like to see the final. But top line looks good.
Senator, fair to say that you think China's the real issue here, that if we could make some sort of agreement with Canada, with Mexico, perhaps with the EU, we could then really focus on China?
Clearly, China's the issue. An important trading partner who will tilt the playing field towards themselves to get all the advantage for China to the detriment of our economy and our workers. Clearly, that is where our focus needs to be.
And what kind of a tough line do you think we should be taking with China? The line that the administration has laid out? Are there issues that you'd like to see front and center? Does that come down to opening markets? Does it come to protecting IP?
Well, sometimes we hurt ourselves. I just had a bill I introduced that the administration is implementing by executive order. As it turns out, the way our postal system works, it was cheaper to send something from Shanghai to Shreveport, Louisiana, than to send it from Baton Rouge to Shreveport, Louisiana. And that was because of postal policies governed by a UN treaty. That's gone now. That's a good thing that's gone. We're encouraging companies to set up in Shanghai instead of encouraging them to set up in Shreveport or any other city in the United States. So we need to see how we're hurting ourselves as well. I'm pleased to say our efforts on that have come to fruition.
I mean, those types of issues aside, which of course seems like a bit of a market inefficiency that might get solved, what should be the substance of any potential agreement with China at this point? Because on the one hand, you have a president who seems very fixated on the goods-based trade deficit. On the other, business people, a lot of people who have looked at this scene for a while say it's really about intellectual property policies and technology transfer and kind of big structural things that maybe are going to take a long time to have any impact on the trade flow.
I think all that is an issue, but the fact is that China will bend every WTO regulation to their advantage. And that is to the disadvantage of our workers, including taking goods, produced subsidized goods, and sending them to third countries in an effort to evade direct tariffs against China. Now, that is wrong. And clearly the president has to have a tough line. By the way, I don't see China as the enemy. I think they're a trading partner, but they're a trading partner that will do everything to their advantage. That has to be corrected.
Senator, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon, Senator Bill Cassidy.
Thank you.